What's up, guys? Headphones Neil here, back with a very special review update video. Mostly because I wanted to share a new home screen that I created for myself, but I also wanted to create a video to thank everybody who helped get me to the point of being able to get into the YouTube Partners Program. So rather than share a bunch of screenshots of social media, I thought I would make a video to show the home screen that I created in action. And it's based off of, as you can tell on the logo, based on the TIE Fighter cockpit design from Andor Season 2. So this isn't necessarily a second or third episode spoiler. It's right off the bat, the opening sequence from Season 2. So doesn't really spoil that much. You're going to get an interior view of a TIE Fighter. So at this point, we don't know the purpose of sharing that or even showing it on screen aside from that point of view of the cockpit. But that being said, I was inspired to come up with what you see here because I kind of like the way it looked. I've been meaning to have a sci-fi-ish, Star Wars-y themed home screen, and that visual from the TIE Fighter cockpit gave me the inspiration needed to come up with this. So we're basically gonna go in order, just top to bottom, left to right. So the top four indicators you see on the top left of the screen are pretty self-explanatory, but the first one is a battery progress bar. So that's the circular progress bar that you see, and that's tied to the middle of the screen where you see the battery percentage, 73%. So that's hand in hand there. You know, sometimes I need the visual, sometimes I want to know the exact percentage. So I have both of that bits of information there. The icon in the middle is self-updating, so when it's not plugged in, you get that battery icon, but when it is, it's updated. It automatically updates to the icon with a charging indicator in the middle of it. So while not necessarily something that I need, because I know if my phone is plugged in or on a wireless charging stand, but just having that visual update is just a little bit of attention to detail for me to have there. The next icon is the Wi-Fi status indicator. So the progress bar is the level of the connection for the Wi-Fi connection. Same thing there, updates based on how good or bad the signal is and all that. For the Wi-Fi indicator, and the same with the third icon for the mobile data connection, is when it's connected, I have it set to be the color white and indicate a connection. But when it's not connected, like you see with my mobile data connection, because I'm currently on Wi-Fi, it automatically changes to that blue tint, which is pulling from an inverted color extracted from the Andor logo. So it not only stays consistent with the rest of the theme of my home screen, but it also has that visual indicator of connected versus not connected. And then the fourth icon, so I wanted to put something in that fourth spot. So I had the search icon shortcut there, but nothing as far as a progress bar. So much like the battery, I have the battery progress bar up at the top, but I have the percentage in the middle of the screen. I made the progress bar for my search icon, my steps, a steps progress bar. So it's set to the default of 10,000 steps a day. So it becomes kind of useless if I get over the 10,000, but it's still a useful progress bar until that point, because I'm not necessarily doing that same amount of steps every single day. But that's tied to the middle of the screen, so I've gotten so far up to 12,500 steps. So just a little bit of connection there, mostly for consistency, so I have enough, so I have everything filled in much the same way. And the progress bar is one of those things where, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to touch there for now. So I wanted to do this setup just to show you now, and I started the music playback because I wanted to show how I also have the home screen themed. So when media is playing, whether it's music or podcasts, the color scheme changes from being pulled from the Andor logo to the current images, the colors from the current media playback's image. So for right now, for example, this track from Limp Bizkit is playing. So if I go over to the next track, it'll change the colors based on the next colors track. I made the image itself a sepia tone to kind of have it match the Andor logo, kind of have that dark reddish hue, but also kind of like the image that we see in the TIE Fighter cockpit. It is kind of the sepia tone. It's not a full color image because of it's a fighter vehicle's cockpit, so you don't necessarily need a fuller color scheme. So I kind of wanted to go with that color consistency for having that kind of layout. So I'll change the track one more time so you can see how the colors change based on the 3 images artwork. As far as the image itself, I have the image changed from the not there again, pause. I have it changed from the Andor logo when music is not playing to when music is playing. It pulls that current current track's album art along with the progress bar for the track. So I don't necessarily have the track's playtime on my home screen just because I couldn't get it to fit right, but the progress bar does tie to the playback speed. I have it going at 3 times the speed right now just so you can see the progress bar going in the full circle, because I don't know that this is necessarily going to be a 45-minute review or whatever the length of this playlist is, but I kind of wanted to show that progress bar going in the circle around the image artwork. And then I have it set to a touch action, so if I need to edit anything, I see the colors I pulled don't necessarily look like how I want, I can go quickly into the custom live wallpaper maker editor. And it's one of those things where it does a good job overall for me, but one of the things is I do have the full background color set to black so I can hide the little camera cutout on my phone. I thought about having the color pull from either the image, the default Andor logo, the currently playing track's cover image, a mix of that and all that, but ultimately it doesn't pull exactly how I want, because right now the main issue is any track that's mostly a black or black and white image. So it's kind of, and I'm trying to get to the track that's like that. So this cover image is mostly black and white by nature, so you can see that black tint doesn't really pull very well. So the progress bar amount around the track cover image is okay, but the progress bars around the indicators not so much. But you do have that offset, so for the Wi-Fi indicator you can kind of see it. Same thing for the mobile data. It would work if my steps were less than 10,000, but with the battery it kind of works too, so it's okay. But just for that kind of black and white cover image, it's okay. It's a minimal, it's a 2% problem versus a 98% problem, in which case I'd probably have to find a way just to invert the color values that I pull. Now, as far as after that, so when music is not playing, I have just basic stats, so time and date, current steps, battery percentage, and the number of notifications. Because I do have my notification drawer hidden, that's part of Nova Launcher, and I guess I should have mentioned that right off the bat, but I'll have that in the show notes as well. Just listed that I'm using Nova Launcher, and I have the status bar hidden because it doesn't really flow with my home screen, and it kind of duplicates the efforts of having the time and date and Wi-Fi indicators and all of that, and having it also in the home screen setup, so I have it hidden. For me, while it is one of those things where it kind of offsets and has a black bar at the top, it kind of works better to have the camera cut out hidden and not have those and have more live indicators on my home screen. And then when music is playing, and if I want to play the track, you would think, well, there's no easy way to do it. So one of the things that you can't see here, but that I'm doing in real life, is touching that section with the time and date and all that information. That's also set to trigger the play pause action. So when I'm ready to play music or podcast, whatever I'm listening to, it'll start the playback and then update that particular segment to the currently playing track's metadata, so album, artist, track title, and then playback control, so I can still do play pause, and then I can do rewind and fast forward. The next bit of information is the weather. I'll put in quotes widgets, so I have the current conditions, the high and low for the day, the current conditions icon, and then the 4-day forecast. So today is Saturday, so from Sunday through Wednesday I have that forecast. Pretty self-explanatory. Just conditions. One of the things that's along the lines of system instrumentation, where you want to know what your, even if you're in a car, you want to know if, your radiator, is it overheating or not? Is your what's your gas level? Kind of like your battery level. And then you have your temperature or your current temperature notification in your dash. So just having that information there is handy. And then the rest of the screen from then on to the bottom is app shortcuts, and then just a lock screen icon because I didn't have any other apps to stick in there. And I normally have double tap to lock, but because of the play pause button and then rewind and fast forward, if I push that too rapidly, too fast, then it conflicts with Nova Launcher's double tap to lock. So I disabled it there, but I have it tied in here as an icon, so I can just push the button to lock the screen and it fits in nicely there. And then the rest of the icons are just the various apps that I use regularly. So that way I can easily get to those, just along the lines of common tasks, toggle switches, and that sort of stuff you would have on a normal TIE Fighter, X-Wing, whatever other plane you want. Just different toggles and buttons and things to push. That's kind of what we have here. Common tasks and apps that I use to quickly get to them. And I was hoping in all of this that by the time I got to at any point in this review, is that I have some of my apps set that when I get a notification for that app, it changes the color of the icon. So I have Gmail, Teams, Voice, WhatsApp, Photos, and YouTube set that when I get a notification from one of those apps, it'll change the color of that icon to that app's color. So red for Gmail, purple for Teams, lighter green for WhatsApp, slightly darker green for Voice, and like red for YouTube and things like that. So not that I wouldn't swipe down, or I have the notification thing for that so I know I have notifications, but it's nice to have that additional color notification since I have my notification bar disabled. So as long as the notification count is not 0, it'll change the color and I'll know I have a notification. Then I can open the app directly and I can see what the notification is. So definitely one of those nice things there. And then and the other thing too is that the reason I have the notification count here is, for example, like the Google notifications are set to silent. So because I don't have a Google app notification thing here, or I technically could that on like the lock screen button or something, have that set that if there is a notification from the Google app, that it changes the color much like, to maybe like a yellow blue combination or something like that, whatever one of the colors from the Google app is, a gray or something like that, which actually is not a bad idea. I could do that, and that way it's a notification. So if I have a notification for something that's not in the icons listed on the bottom, or specifically from the Google app, then I can have that set to change color, so I know that I have a random notification from Google to take a look at, and that's an extra secondary like notification thing there. But that's about it for everything in this home screen, and so that's kind of everything in this particular layout. So that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, that I wanted a home screen that does all of those things you would see in a TIE Fighter or X-Wing cockpit, and presented in a way that's unified. It adjusts in real time as far as when I'm listening to music or a podcast, when I get notifications for select apps, have indicator icons that update regularly on their own based on the 4 you see at the top left and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. So that's everything in a nutshell. And then what I'll do, and if you're a new subscriber to the podcast, if you're an existing subscriber, you'll see it you may have already seen it on the channel. But recently up to when this particular video was released, I did a quick and easy custom live wallpaper tutorial series for beginners. So if you wanted to create something like this on your own, I wanted to share the tools and tips and tricks I used to learn this on my own. So if you wanted to create something like this, you could do it. If you wanted to create something on your own, like you have your own idea for overlapping groups and stack groups and progress bars, how to use text fields, and how to use the various elements in custom live wallpaper level maker at a beginner level, then that tutorial series, I think and feel, will help you get started within the app at that beginner's level. So in the show notes for this video, I'll have that link so you can check it out and get started on your own. And if you want tips and tricks from my perspective, then you can comment on one of those videos. You can comment on this video, and I'll help share what I've learned over the years and how I've set up some of this stuff. If you want to see more on how I set up this home screen, or some of the details on what I did, then I'm happy to share some of that stuff as well. But a lot of the stuff I do is just basic overlap groups, stack groups, text, progress bars, color changing, and things like that. So even if you go into like the background, it's just a regular shape, and you go into paint and it's just a regular formula with variables and globals and things like that. So nothing too special, nothing too magical. I'm not doing embedded formulas and calling external data and things like that. I save a global image variable. I save certain formulas for the colors I want to use as a global variable, so it's easier to pull that information into formulas rather than having super long formulas and stuff. So that tutorial series will definitely help you out with things like that. And this home screen is kind of another culmination of all of that sort of stuff. In addition to the finale of that particular series, the tutorial series I did, the final video is putting everything into one. This is kind of an extension of that in a slightly different format. So with that being said, that's all there is for this particular update, review, sharing, thank you video, all of that combined into one. So I know one of my goals for this year is 2025 is to get back into doing more Android app reviews. But in the meantime, if you're new to the YouTube channel, a lot of the stuff I put on the channel is gameplay videos for whatever game I'm playing currently. So as of this recording in May, I'm in the middle of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the definitive edition. I recently just finished my replay of Knights of the Old Republic 1 for Android. So a lot of my gameplay videos are from the Android or on the Android platform. So even if I get back into Xbox Game Pass, it'll be via the app and streaming gameplays from there and things like that. So, and then of course I put the audio version of the podcast up on the YouTube channel, so there's a section for that as well, along with the link usually in the show notes as well, and I think also one of the links on the profile page to subscribe to the podcast if you prefer it in your podcast client of choice. So with that being said, that's all there is for this particular update and review. Thanks for being a new or existing subscriber to the channel. I look forward to your feedback on this or other videos and stuff that you see up on the channel, your continued support and all of that. And of course, with that being said, I've also already set up the membership button for the channel. I've thought about doing a mix of either a bunch of tiers of subscription and support or just the one. So for now, I'm doing just a single support button to keep it simple for tiers. I tried to do a mix between, well, what would be good for everybody versus good for me. So I'm hoping the current level that it's at is a good balance, that it's not too low, not too high. It's enough for, a cup of coffee. Or think of it, I guess, suppose, as the favorite thing of a single membership is a good for, or each one covers enough for like a cup of coffee at a time. Half of at least the basics for a lunch, like a quick spicy chicken sandwich is my favorite. So or a slice of pizza from the grocery store or whatever, things like that. So whichever form you want to support the show in, or however you support the show, I appreciate it. But of course, the usual, I appreciate the subscription to the YouTube channel, the podcast feed, if you're into podcasts and all of that. So thank you for tuning into this video. Thank you for being or becoming a subscriber to the channel on YouTube at youtube.com/PatelN01. And the podcast is at headphonesneil.reviews. But thanks for tuning into this particular video and review and update, and until next time.